Good morning, guys. Today we're gonna have a look at this beauty, the Volvo C40 Recharge. This is Volvo's first all-electric car, and I'm gonna compare it in this video, the design of these two, the Tesla Model 3 and the Volvo C40. Now I know the C40 is of course a hatchback and more of a crossover SUV with a coupe SUV style, and this Model 3 is actually a sedan, so the proper review would probably be with the Tesla Model Y. But since I have the Tesla here, I'm gonna make some comparison between the two styling features of these, because they're very different when it comes to the philosophy of styling, but they're also very similar when it comes to the driving experience. And I think that has to do with, you know, EVs. That's kind of, I wouldn't call it a problem maybe with EVs, but they do tend to feel very, very similar when you're driving them. And that's all has to do, of course, with the battery and not having a 4, 6 or 8 cylinder V12. They all feel very, very different. So if you look at these two designs, they both have a very simplistic design, but they're still very different. This is super Scandinavian, has a lot of straight lines to it and very horizontal lines. And then we have the Tesla, feels almost Italian style with very emotional lines and fluid lines in it. So they are super different in their designs. But what really sets these apart is, of course, when we go back to the rear end and also when we look at the interior in just a second. I really love the way the Volvo looks. Super clean, very futuristic. It looks like an updated C30 almost. So we're going to talk more about the exterior design of the Volvo in just a second. But first of all, I want to compare the interiors. So the Tesla, as you know, very simplistic in its styling. It doesn't really get a lot simpler than this. We have just one screen. I do, however, kind of wish that we had a head-up display, a simple head-up display right here for the Tesla Model 3 and the Model Y. And I don't think that would add a lot of cost to the interior or to the car purchase price of the Model 3 and the Model Y. We have new pieces right here, and I'm going to talk more about this in a different video, the whole interior, what I think of it, what I like and what I dislike. Before we talk about the C40 interior, let's head for a drive and talk a bit more about the beautiful exterior design. All right, 15 miles per hour, I'm going to floor it. Let's go. Woo! It's pretty fast. As I said, it's just a second slower to 60 than the Model 3 Performance, and it feels about just 1 second slower. It's really quick, actually. Here it is, guys, Volvo's first all-electric car, the C40 Recharge. This is the twin, so we have dual motors in this beast, around 450 horsepower, price around $65,000. So it's up there along with, for example, Tesla Model 3 Performance is about the same price. But this design, I have to tell you about this design, because usually, if you watched my videos before, I'm not a huge fan of SUV coupes. I think they look always like an afterthought, and the proportions are always weird on the SUV coupes. But in this case, I actually think it works. It doesn't look like an afterthought on the Volvo for some reason. Look at the proportions from a side view. You can see that it's well balanced looking at the rear, and the weight of the car is well balanced all over both the axles. And usually what happens when you have a SUV coupe is that it looks a little front heavy, but not in this case. Let's start with the rear view and let's talk a little bit about this design here. I really love the way they designed these LEDs. You see you have like runway of lights, then continues into this gorgeous line and cuts in to the deck light here as well. And then you have the indicators down here in this whole strip, and then the reverse lights right there. Now look at this rear end. I think this is so not Volvo, but in a good way, because we have this trunk spoiler right here. As you can see, this is standard equipment for the C40, and then you have these two like air vents or wings sitting up here. They're actually not hollow, but it just looks very, very cool, like a split spoiler up top, and then you have the full spoiler down there at the bottom or on the deck lid. It's a really clean design, and I also love this Scandinavian styling. It looks a little product designy with these lines right here. You can see this gorgeous chamfer like wrapping around the side and then goes up here, wrapping around, kind of framing the taillight. And then from this chamfer we now have another chamfer going down here, and this is stuff that you don't see, for example, on Teslas. They are very clean Teslas, very flush. All the lights and everything sit very flush with the body. But as you can see, for example, here's another example of this Scandinavian design where you have this taillight sticking out from, and there's a RC remote control jet. Again, we're at this airfield where they fly these remote control jets. It's pretty cool to see. So let's continue on the side view. We have this line at the bottom, very product designy as well, because it doesn't have an angle to it. It just goes straight, but it doesn't have this cut like we have in the Polestar. So the Polestar, if you look at this section, it's mirrored back here. But as you can see, this line has a dip right here, but in the back, it continues straight and fades into the fender instead of going down like this, like we have on the Polestar, which creates a little bit of a movement to this design. Quickly want to show you the side view here of the C40 Recharge, and we have the Tesla Model 3 down here. I'm also going to pop in the Tesla Model Y because I think that would be a fairer comparison. The key reason why the C40 looks better, in my opinion, than the Tesla Model 3 is that this is based on an internal combustion design. All they did was cut this roof and make it into a coupe-like, instead of having the XC40 style where they have more of a you know, traditional SUV shape. But this looks like an internal combustion engine. This could definitely house an engine up here in the front end. And looking at the styling, it feels a lot more grown up, which is normal because Volvo has been around a lot longer than Tesla has. So they have a clear brand identity, what they want to bring out in their design. There is a lot of product design features like we have right here. This line that I love goes into the rear fender, as you can see right here, and kind of wraps around also from this line in the front end. So we have one line going across the entire car. It looks really good. Comparing it to the Tesla Model 3, the reason why the Tesla looks like it does, very kind of plain design, but that is all part of Tesla's marketing, because they know this car is going to be around for a very long time. It's almost a startup company, Tesla, so they can't afford to go crazy and wild with their designs and push away certain customers. They wanted to have a very simple design for their models, and that's why the Tesla look the way it does. But as you can see, it has clear EV proportions here. We have a super long wheelbase for this type of design. We also have this almost bubble roof that stretches very far forward. The A-pillar stops very far forward compared to an internal combustion engine, but it's still a good looking design. I think Tesla did the most of what they could with the parameters that they had to work with. As I said, sell to the masses, keep the design very simple and straight to the point, and it's still a good looking car. But if we pop in the Tesla Model Y, I think there is no question which design is the better looking here. I'm not a huge fan of the Model Y. I think it looks a little weird in proportions. It sits a little too high here and a little too low in the front end. It looks like 90% of the mass is right here, similar to the Tesla Model X as well. And it just doesn't look as good as the Model 3, and that automatically makes it less attractive than the gorgeous Volvo C40 up here. Now moving on to the front end. This is also very typical Volvo. It's kind of C40 XC40 design, but as you can see, this grille here is patched up. It's all electric. It doesn't need as much cooling, and I think it looks like an EV. If you look at it from a front view, it looks very clean, but still very distinct Volvo design. Another thing I like about the front end graphics that we have in the rear as well is that if you look at this line right here, this also has this beautiful chamfer housing this Thor's hammer, very Scandinavian style of this design. And we also have this line going up here in the hood, continuing down here, similar to what we have right here in the back. So it kind of has a continuity all over the design, and that makes it look really good. It makes it look good even if it is an SUV coupe. We have the Volvo's new logo right here, and we do have a little bit of an opening right here for some cooling and a larger opening down here at the bottom for cooling the batteries, I would guess. Fog lights are implemented right here in this black graphic, as you can see. Moving on to the interior, and I think this is where, if you separate the Tesla from the Volvo, the interior is really nice in this car. And I think Volvo has done interiors really well for a long time now, and this is no different. This looks beautiful in here. This right here is like a topographical map. So when it's at nighttime, this is backlit and you have these different shades of gray because we have different thicknesses in this piece right here. And it looks really cool. It's like a cool alternative to, for example, wood or carbon fiber or something like that. All the feeling in here, it feels very solid. It feels very premium. You can hear the clicks right here. It just has a nice heavy feel to it. Even when moving it like this, it just feels quality. And I do prefer a car like this when you have everything being a little bit more designed than we have, for example, in the Tesla, which is really simple across the entire interior. But this looks like every single piece around here has been carefully thought out and designed. And we also have a continuity with these designs, for example, across the entire length of the interior. And looking at the steering wheel, we still have this chamfers going on right here in the steering wheel like we have on the outside. Very Scandinavian, and kind of brings in the outside in to the car. Another thing I really like about this car. There's no leather in here, so everything is leather free. That's one of the statements that Volvo wants to do in the future. No leather at all, but it still kind of feels like the leather. And in here, I think this is Alcantara or something like that. It definitely feels like it. And as you can see, we have the blue interior. So the carpets are blue, the doors are blue, and I think it looks really good when we open it up. And you can see how the exterior color kind of comes in to the interior as well. The back seat is pretty decent for the size of this car. And looking at the trunk, we have some decent space in the back, but this is obviously one of these things that's going to have to be compromised a little bit if you go with the C40 over the XC40 Recharge. And I'm not sure if I prefer, this is the first time that I think I actually prefer the SUV coupe over the XC40, which is pretty crazy because that's something I never thought I would say about an SUV coupe like this, but it just looks so good and so balanced. Let's have a look at the front as well while we're at it. It's not as big as the ones we have in Teslas, but it's still a pretty decent size. But looking under here, we have this big hood, as you can see, and then we have this. This is all the storage space. It's pretty shallow down here, and you have a lot of stuff for like tire pressure and things, I guess this is. And you have this divider here, so no kids can jump in and just close on themselves. It's pretty decent. Not the biggest front area I've seen, but still not bad. So I'm gonna do a POV drive of the C40 Recharge on my third channel. I'm gonna link that down in the description if you want to go and check that out. The wheels are 20-inch. I kind of like the design. They go with the overall simplicity and product designing of the rest of the car. It looks pretty cool in my opinion, and I would definitely go with the 20. So I'm not sure what the it's going crazy there with the with the remote jet just going rattle in circles. It looks pretty cool, but these wheels, they really set the car off. It plants the car, it makes it look nice. I also like the black graphic, the plastic cladding that we have around it. It makes the car look a little lower than what it actually is. So well done, Volvo, with this design. So the question comes down to which one would I choose? The Volvo C40 Recharge or, for example, the Tesla Model Y. I bought the Model 3 for the simple reason that it's the best to live with in my specific circumstances. And I'm going to talk more about that on my third channel, so subscribe to that if you want to check that out. Link down in the description. But the C40 Recharge is a fantastic looking car. It's great to drive and it feels quality. So if I were to base it on the design only, the Volvo wins this race.